Remarkably brave behaviour indeed, the Légion d'honneur to those four men. Let's bring in to talk about this David Rand from Yale University, Professor of Psychology, among other things. David, thank you very much for being with us. What do you think made these men act the way they did?
So our research on altruism, extreme altruism, cooperation, suggests that there's two things that have to happen in order to get people to act the way these young men did on the train. The first is that they have to have an impulse to help. And then the second is that they have to be willing to go with their gut and not second guess things too much, not think too much.
So why do some of us have what is termed the right stuff, that heroic gene, and others don't?
Well, I think that the part in terms of having an impulse to help, we have a reasonably good understanding of where that comes from. And the theory that I've suggested is that our impulses are the things that work well for us in daily life. So if typically you live in a country, you work in an organization, you have a set of friends where behaving well and cooperating and helping other people is rewarded, then you wind up internalizing that as your intuitive default response.
So it's a question of being brought up in the right kind of, I'll say society, but that could equally be family, it could equally be community, couldn't it?
Exactly. It's sort of culture in a micro sense of culture.
So it's a question of not having a brave gene, it's something that is actually developed environmentally.
Yes, and we've done experiments where we can change people's intuitions by exposing them to different kinds of environments.
So if you're scared of acting, it will actually make you scared of acting in any circumstances. Is that the message?
I don't know about literally any circumstance, but that there's a lot of spillovers where what you get used to in one setting influences how you behave in other settings. Particularly what you're used to most of the time influences what happens in rare situations like these extreme cases.
I suppose now, as Europe in particular, and I think the world probably in general, is facing many questions about security and about safety in the light of the manifold terrorist threat, more and more people may be posing themselves those kind of questions. What would I do in these circumstances? Chances are, from what you're saying, they may still be struggling to find the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a big lesson of our research is that you can think about it all you want ahead of time, but what really matters is when the moment comes, if you have an impulse to help, do you just go with it without thinking, which is what the young men on Friday all said happened? They were all like, didn't think about it, just did it. Or do you stop and think? And the minute that you stop and think, it's essentially going to be already too late for you psychologically. Even if you still had time to act, you're going to start thinking about all the reasons not to do it. You might get hurt. You might be the only person that goes forward. All these kinds of things that undermines that impulse, that intuitive impulse to help.
When I was a young man, there was that phrase "safety in numbers," which often used to come up in our social circumstances. There were only three of these guys together, plus the Briton who joined in as well. But just that small, well-known or well-known to each other group, do you think that would have helped them to make that decision, to go for it, to try to stop this man?
Maybe. I don't know that there's a good scientific answer for that question, but I think that a key point is that there are lots of examples of individuals just by themselves acting in a heroic way. And if a lot of the idea of what motivates this sort of heroism is an intuitive, sort of instinctive action, that means by definition, it's not that sensitive to the details of the situation. You're not doing the calculation of, well, how many friends do I have? How many of them are there? How many of us can we win this? It's just go. Yeah.
It comes from that. So do you think there's something in the final question, because we're running out of time here, but I've got to put this one in anyway. I'm a journalist, you're a psychologist. Are we less likely to jump in and help than, say, a trained military man?
I think so. I think that there's a big part of the training that you get in the military that says, when lives are at stake, you go.
David Rand, thank you very much for your insight. We will leave it there. David Rand from Yale over in the United States. Thank you, sir, for your insight.